me, that's all I ever. Yeah, that's the essence of everything. And it's so rewarding for me.
Question here.
Have you noticed a change over 30 years of coaching in the sense that the technology's really moved the needle on things, that you have to use it, you can't ignore it?
Yeah, I think the one thing with the technology is I'd like to think I'd say I'm the brightest bear in the woods, but I'd like to think I'm bright enough to understand that that's where the game is and that's where the game is going to go. But I also truly believe that that middle ground is what really is the essence of the evolutionary part of that. I mean, I struggle with somebody's old school and somebody's new school. If you're a really good baseball person, you're a really good baseball person. And I think that there's some tremendous new school baseball people and there's some tremendous old school, and blending the two is where the game, I think, is creeping back to and where the game needs to go to. I mean, I love the athleticism of the game. I mean, doing it kind of the way I do it, I mean, the appreciation for somebody that can move around athletically and cover ground as an outfielder with reads and jumps, or move easy in the infield and cover ground. I always struggled when we were into the shift world and, you went to a ballpark and you watched people trying to hit balls through a wall or over a wall. I would pay to watch Aaron Judge do that, but there's not a lot of other people I want to pay to see if they can do that. So I just love the fact that the game's moving back to, and again, it's not moving away from analytics, but it's moving back to the overall essence of what the sport is. You go to the ballpark and you watch Lindor range, or you watch, any of the great defensive players do their thing, and I say, like, the overall tools, or the essence of the tool of the player shows. It's not just, we're coming to watch home runs and we're coming to watch 110 mile an hour fastballs. You can actually start to see guys pitch again, and so I think it's kind of.
It's a cycle.
Yeah. We use it, and you're crazy if you don't, because there's some real gems in there. But the danger I find in the developmental side is that too much information in development can be really, really challenging. Because I've always felt as a coach that when you ask a player to make an adjustment in any context, that's intimidating. Because by essence, the player feels that what they're doing is not good enough to get to where they want to get to. So you got to be very careful. I'm really careful with that. Anytime I'm asking a player to make an adjustment, or we are as a staff, to understand that player, especially our younger players, they've had success in their little world before, and now they're failing, and you're asking them to make an adjustment. If you don't do that the right way, and you just pile on information, these kids will run for all that information, and they just lose who they are, the essence of the player they are. So that's the one aspect.
It's a mental game as much as it is.
It's a huge mental game.
Yeah. An empty mind, full bat, I heard.
100%.
A few years ago here. So, yeah.
Greg, congratulations on getting into the Canadian Baseball Hall of Fame. What was some of your most memorable moments as a coach, and who were some of your early influences when you first started coaching?
I mean, I got into coaching, I'd say, my playing career allowed coaching to find me, or me to find coaching. I played at a high enough level to have an appreciation for how good you have to be to kind of, play the game at the highest levels. And I've coached at a high enough level to understand how hard it is to, put things together and become that type of player. So my collegiate coach was the first person to tap me on the shoulder. I guess he saw something in an undersized right-hander that, would lead to a quick alternate career, and thankfully he suggested it be coaching, and he kind of saw some coaching in an average right-hander, and suggested that in his mind I had some attributes to do that. So I guess they say the best resume or the best application is the one that you do in person. I had an opportunity to do that for 4 years under him, and well, I had a few good moments. I didn't have enough, so he suggested to get into coaching, and I'm really glad he did. So that was kind of the beginning part. And
Greg, what was his name? Sorry,
Tom O'Connell.
Tom
Not
O'Connell.
with us anymore,
Perfect.
unfortunately.
Okay.
But and then I've just got a wealth of national team. I mean, again, I could think of, back-to-back Pan Am gold medals. I mean, standing in Ajax with our group. I mean, a pile of players that had played 15, 16 years of pro ball, and a coaching staff of guys that have been in the game for their lives. Some we had a Hall of Famer in there, and Walk and Ernie and Leap and all the guys, and Boosh, and standing there and watching the three flags go up at the closing ceremonies, and hearing the anthem being played, and I say it's like when you're a kid and you go and the kids bet there, and the three things go up, and the one that gets to the top, you get a prize, and the Canadian flag got to the top, and the American flag stopped short, and the Cuban flag stopped in third place, and you wanted to freeze that moment in time, because in the sport of baseball, I have an appreciation, a real appreciation of how hard that is to do in baseball, to have a Canadian flag above those two countries. And that doesn't happen every day. There's some tremendous Cuban players, and obviously the United States and their national team, it speaks for itself. So it's moments like that, it's going into Olympic opening ceremonies and realizing you have the opportunity to be part of a nation's excellence, and not just our own sporting excellence, and see how your peers, the players, our coaching staff that we've, at that level, our senior and pro level, been together for so long, and it merits it because they're tremendous. And, you kind of become one. You just go in there and it's all about your country, and it's different. As I say, it's not necessarily, I can't say that it's better than a bat flip in the World Series, because I never got close to a bat flip in the World Series as a player or as a manager. Or as a front office executive, but I will say it's incredibly unique. And,
What has baseball meant to you in your life?
Other than my family, which when you're in baseball, you're on the road a lot. So I say I've tried really hard there to make sure that I haven't missed things that are incredibly important. I have two young kids that have moved along, and getting a little bit older now, and my wife who's and my mom who's here today, and but beyond that, it's been my life. I love it. I've had a chance to, and I want to say this respectfully, I've had a chance to have a little bit of an impact on a lot of people's kids, and that's a great honor. That's a tremendous honor, and I don't take that lightly, and I hope they'll let me do it for a little while longer, because I still feel really passionate about it.
Greg, how would you describe yourself as a coach?
I think I'm a player's coach. Again, I didn't play high enough to play at the highest levels, but I did play at a high enough level in a couple sports to understand how good you have to be a professional, how good you have to be to play collegiate sport. You still fall in the 1% category if you're going to go and play collegiate baseball in our world. And if you're going to become a pro, it's even a smaller pool. And I understand how hard the game is. I think our game is, certainly the hitting component is the most difficult thing to do in any sport. I've coached a very small number of players that, if you ask me, hey, would you mortgage your house on them playing a day in the big leagues? There's a small number that I would take that bet, but there were a whole lot of them that I felt that if they continue with their love, their work, they made a few adjustments that they needed to make, and they were long on desire and resiliency, that they would have a chance. And that's kind of the really rewarding part of it, is to be able to, see something in a player that in our world is enough to invite them to a national team training camp, and then put them in an environment where they're challenged unlike they've ever been before, and then make sure that you catch them when they're falling, because you can see that deer in the headlight looks when they're failing, which they do. We put them against pros as young players, and they're going to fail. Very few that haven't. Maybe Josh Naylor did fail, but it's very few. Yeah. But and that's the love of coaching. You look at a player and you see that look, and they fear. They fear that their dreams may not work relative to who they just faced today as a hitter. I always say sometimes, hey, that was a slider, guys. I can remember when Adam Mullen came for his first trip. We brought him at 15 years old, and still, the most talented overall player that I've ever seen. His injuries got him. But
Pitched and outfield, I
think he's a trivia question. Still, he's the only guy to go back to the big leagues 3 times
right?
in 3 different positions.
Come on.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
I remember we were playing at Disney at ESPN Wireless Sports. We used to have our camps there, our instruction league, and extended, and the Braves used to be there, right? And all the teams used to be in. So in extended and instructional, you would know that if the innings get a little carried away, you just roll them. You get the pitcher out of there, and they say a couple of those games we'd still be there if we didn't get the roll in the early years. But I remember, roll it, and Adam had no idea. He'd just come out of Little League and dominated everybody, and he was actually hanging in against the Braves at basically 14 years old, turning 15. But we wanted to protect him and make sure that it didn't get sideways. So, I think of some of the players that we've done so well you know, it's you have to protect confidence. You know, you asked about numbers, but you have to, confidence is everything. Like, belief is everything, that they can do it. You know, and every player we have has something. I mean, I always say at the national level, you don't get to the, tell the kids, you don't get to this level unless there's something. You know, very few, you have 5 of them. So we're not gonna, you know, the ones that do, envy them, and they're not, don't envy them, but you know, tip your cap, because, you know, I always say you have to conceive with pride. So you're going to give away a couple things that you're not going to be able to do very well, and really pound hard at your strengths. And here's how you're going to have an opportunity, and here's why, and you explain it to the player. It's nice to see when they kind of get over that hump, and, you know, you're watching Denzel, you know, first 19 at bats, didn't get a hit, comes home to Toronto. And you could just see, like, I mean, it's, and it's like, that's at the major league level, but I can remember Denzel as a young kid, and, you know, it's, you sit back in your little space and you just have a little emotional moment, and you're happy for him, because you know how important that is. I mean, it's, you know, the misery of 0 for 19, and how hard the game is, and he's in the big leagues, and he's a terrific defensive player, and obviously he's with the right club to give him that bat some time and patience, but the confidence that comes with coming home and actually, you know, getting a few hits, and, you know, you grow right in front of it. So.
You mentioned the impact you've been able to have on people's kids. If I were to ask someone that's graduated from the Baseball Canada program what it was like to play for you, what do you hope that they would say?
That he cared about me as a person, and that he's spent time with me to get to know me as a player and as a person, because I think they're connected. I've always felt that if you're going to coach people's kids, you got to know the people's kids, and you got to know the people. So you got to know the parents, and you got to know kind of, because we deal with young kids. So I mean, they're teenagers. You know, there's a lot going on, right? As we all know, the teenagers gone through it personally my own. So I've always respected that. I mean, a lot of times you'll look at a player in the field and there's an 0 for 4, but there may be off-field things that are contributing to that 0 for 4. You know, we write about the 0 for 4 and how bad a player was in a given day, and you know, people sometimes say, well, is he hurt? He might be hurt emotionally, he might be hurt in different ways. There's stuff going on. These are human beings, they're real. You know, they only get an escape for 9 innings. I mean, they walk out there back into. So I'd like to think that. I really enjoy getting to know all the players that we have on a human level, on a personal level, because I think if you're going to coach them, you got to know them as people and their backgrounds. If you're going to coach somebody, you got to know where they've come from, you got to know what they're dealing with, you got to know the language that works for them and the language that doesn't work for them. I change my language sometimes, you know, to connect. I mean, and you have to, right? Because so I would hope that I really cared about, and not just the ones that are on TV. You know, I mean, you know, it's I'd say we have a great vehicle for development. It just happens to be baseball in the national program, and it's nice to see them go on and succeed in life. And it's a short time frame that they play baseball, but that would be my hope.
I was going to ask you about, I know you said you don't have the Jose Bautista bat, but you have the Pete Orr scoring the winning run at the 2015 Canadian Games on Canadian soil. I mean, where does that rank in terms of all-time thrills?
Yeah, I mean, that's really, that's as good as it gets in our world, right? To do it at home and see a red, and you know, in a dramatic fashion that way. I mean, we were kind of, I don't want to say we were down for dead, but we were in a bit of a spot there, and thankfully they went for the backdoor pickoff that you got to be careful in, that didn't work, and tried to force it. But yeah, that was great. I mean, it's you say with there's a lot of guys in those teams that, and I don't know if we'll have as much of it going forward because of the changes in the game, right? But we had a cycle of our senior program all the way back to, you know, when we qualified to go to Athens. We have players in those teams that have played 15 and 16 years of pro ball, 17 years of pro ball, and played like for us over and over and over again. And you know, Pete's one of them. You know, I mean, it's you just, and back to the same thing. You stand there, I mean, as a coaching staff, and you're happy for a lot of people. Right? You know, Pete's been in the major leagues, and he's played the postseason, but you know, it's different. You know, it's you did it together, you did it for your country. Everybody puts aside the grind of the game and the, you know, where I am or where I'm not in the game, and you know, it's really, really neat, really different, and rewarding, you know, to see them succeed and to do it with people and succeed together. And because when you come in, we're lucky you don't have to really when you have different generations, you don't have to convince them of what it means. You know, they come in. I mean, Tyler O'Neill was in that group, and I still remember Tyler was in Double A at the time, and Tyler can be very easily misinterpreted.
Yeah, I've interviewed him.
Yeah, very easily, but there's a ton of depth to him, and he cares a ton about being a teammate and playing for his country, and he was the guy, the up-and-coming guy on that team. You know, we had some very accomplished players, but they were on the backside of careers. And he was the guy on that team that was going, you know, beyond. And we had a whole, I mean, I remember in putting the roster together, my hope was that this would be a tremendous developmental time thing. I talked to the mariners about it as well. So we're going to surround them with guys that have done this for 17 years, 15 years, and a coaching staff that's been in the game forever. You know, and accomplished at incredible levels. I mean, obviously, walking in that context and Ernie and all the guys and everybody in the bush. But, you know, I believe that with his personality, he'll come in a little bit misinterpreted with his teammates. And I talked to all the other guys about it because they didn't necessarily know. His first go around was a lot of the group. And, you know, that's kind of my little piece. Is I think you're going to love this guy. And I think he's going to love you guys. And he's going to grow up with you guys, because when he first walks in, you're going to kind of look sideways because, again, the guy that spent 17 years grinding it out isn't necessarily immediately, if the guy looks like he's figured it out, he's only on the front end, you get a little bit, hey, wait a minute, what's this? But he's not that. And it turned out to be just terrific to watch him kind of grow with those guys and be championed by them. They knew he was going where they'd been in some cases, and they were all happy for him. And he was very deferential to the experience around him and very respectful of it, which is what you love in development.
And this got to be a product of what you've tried to build, the culture that you've tried to build, right? In that kind of taking, because like you said, a lot of times the younger guy thinks he's got it figured out. That doesn't always work out very well in veteran clubhouses. But just speak a little bit to that culture that you've just created.
Well, yeah, it's you know, I mean, it's that because so many have kind of started with the younger program and gone through the younger program, and then, you know, when they understand that impact, and then they go and have success, and when you can reconnect that success with the next generation, if somebody's kind of a little bit wayward of that, it gets checked pretty quickly,
right?
In the right way, you know, like, and sometimes the right way can be, you know,
not the nicest,
or what it might be, yeah, but we don't have a lot of it because everybody gets it, you know. I mean, you think of Ernie. I mean, he's done this selflessly for years, and I'm so thankful. I mean, we have continuity with that staff at the senior team level. We have our alumni deeply ingrained with our younger program. So, and our senior program is, you know, that coaching staff comes back year after year, and, you know, people might say, well, why don't you change? Well, why? I mean, look at the people we have. I mean, they care so much. They're terrific coaches, a ton of knowledge, and they're all in. Like, we don't travel in charter. We don't, you know, the bus breaks down, which is, you know, we take the coach bus that we do have doesn't arrive for a trip back to the Olympic Village, and we're taking the city bus, and you know, and we're in Panama, and it breaks down on the way to the field, and, you know, you're not staying in the presidential suite in the corner room, and to have, you know, a coaching staff of major league accomplished players and professional coaches that just roll with that and make it real and fun and enjoy it, embrace it. I mean, how are you going to come in as a younger player and not feel that? Like, it's just, so we keep that group together because we're really, really fortunate to have them. They're really good and they care, and we have a culture that you know, they all get and make sure that everybody else gets, and you know, in a very real way, you know. So
I ran into you guys actually in the Pearson Airport Hotel at 3:30 in the morning in March, and just you could see the collegiality even at 3 in the morning. The parents as well, and the coaching staff. And I think that's kind of what you try to foster. Is it's individual sport, but it really is a team sport, and you're fostering everybody moving in that direction. And did you gain tips on that from anybody that really said, as you pointed out, you're a player's coach? Did you have anybody that really said this is how you really need to coach?
You know what? It's this is a really stupid analogy, but I don't want to talk about me in the context. But in high school, I won the grade 13, so I dated myself, automotive award for the school. So you still go to my high school and see my plaque on a wall. I had the top mark in auto mechanics and shop. And I learned something, it really struck me, and it stays with me to this day, and it's helped me all the way through coaching, is that I would have been the last person in that class that I would have ever taken a car to fix. I studied, and theoretically I could write the exam. My peers in that class just loved the cars, and they lived underneath an engine. They didn't study for anything. And they didn't get a good mark because they didn't study. But I knew how good they were and how incompetent I would have ever been. I was fine with the exam that went A, B, C, D, as long as it was a straight line. I can't fix a light bulb. My wife is a testament to that. I married an Italian, and her father, is tremendous, and she's way better in our household at fixing things and whatever. I don't know where it came from, but when I got into coaching, I had some feel to see talent. It just kind of, I'm not saying I'm better than anyone, but it just, I could look at a group of kids, and it just felt at ease to kind of saying yes, and a sense of baseball talent. And for me, coaching just came natural because I love people and I love helping. I mean, if I wasn't coaching, I could work at the Boys and Girls Club, and I could work at the YMCA. I could, when I just, and the ability, I love sports, so the ability to combine a love of helping and seeing people realize their potential. And it's more than just the skills of the game and the technique of hitting or the technique of throwing or the mechanics or all that stuff. I believe it's way more the human element. If you identify the talent the right way and you get really human with them and you create a belief that they can do it, and you're there to catch them when you know they're struggling, and when you don't overwhelm them when they're struggling with supposed solutions, because that's the other danger of too much information, and these kids will run for it. Now that's the challenge in our world. Now that's what I've seen has changed the most is, if you're not giving them something, they'll go right to the phone or the internet, and they'll try to find something, and you've got to try to make sure that you let them know they're okay, and it's a natural. Russell Martin went through the same thing, by the way, so you're going to be just fine. You're going to be okay. And, if you want, you can talk to Russ. We'll let him talk to you.
So cerebral. That's what the game is. Yogi said it's half 90% mental.
Yeah. Yeah, you got to believe you can do it.
Greg, last question.
Yeah.
Just thoughts on Joey Votto and the impact the Toronto Blue Jays have had on baseball since they came here in '77.
Joey's a terrific person. Easily misunderstood if you don't get the opportunity to kind of get in behind in the depth of the human being, but he's been a really, really caring, loyal supporter for our national teams. And I always say, guys don't have to. Joey went on, had tremendous success. Never played in our junior team, played in our senior teams. There you go, really bad coaching on that one. But has really, really cared and given back, and he's obviously, you respect the talent, with Joey, just the extreme focus on his craft, and obviously, one of the best hitters to ever do it in our country. So I've got to know Joey, I would say reasonably well, not, as well, not really, but reasonably well, and enough to say that there's a lot of depth, a lot of care, and we're very fortunate that he does care about what we do up here and about our programs. And he comes by and he comes back for banquets in January, and we're excited to kind of watch where the next step's going to be with him, because obviously it's probably going to be in a pretty special place. So.
I think this guy won.
Nico, the Blue Jays.
Yeah,
I talked to him.
my pleasure.
Thanks.